Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post-closing ceremony. My name is Michael Kelly, and joining us this evening from the Australian Army is Sergeant Natalie Bassato. We warmly welcome the family of Private Josiah Thomas, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors. Could I please ask you to stand and join with me singing the national anthem? The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Josiah Thomas. Josiah Thomas was born in 1895, the son of Josiah and Henrietta Thomas of Melbourne. Educated at Wesley College in Melbourne, Josiah's father was a well-known and respected miner who had been elected president of the Broken Hill Amalgamated Miners Association. Josiah the elder went on to enter politics and held the federal seat for Barrier in the Fisher government. After completing his schooling, the younger Josiah found work as a boundary rider and farmer before enlisting in the Australian Imperial Force in Melbourne, January 1915. Aged 19 at the time, Josiah received his father's written permission to volunteer for overseas service. After a period of training at Broadmeadows military camp, he embarked for Egypt as an original member of the 22nd Battalion in May 1915. After further training at Mena camp near Cairo, he and the rest of the 22nd Battalion landed on Gallipoli in late August, where they defended the northern Anzac beachhead for the remainder of the campaign. Returning to Egypt after the evacuation from Gallipoli in December, Josiah had a brief brush with military law when he was found guilty of being absent without leave for 2 days and was docked 5 days' pay. After further training in Egypt, where the AIF underwent a period of reorganisation and training, the 22nd Battalion sailed for France and the battlefields of the Western Front in March 1916. Forming part of the 2nd Division, the 22nd were among the first Australian troops to file into the trenches of the new operational theatre, and did so in the relatively quiet nursery sector outside the town of Armentières. Here, the Australians learned the rigours and routine of fighting in France and carried out trench raids and patrols on the German positions. In early July, they shifted south to the Somme to take part in the British offensive then raging in that sector. The 22nd Battalion fought its first major action on the Western Front at Pozieres on the 27th of July 1916, in a costly and unsuccessful attempt to capture a fortified German position to the east of the village. Josiah was seriously wounded and was evacuated to a casualty clearance station at Pushvier, where he died 4 days later. Aged just 21, Josiah was buried at the Pushvier British Cemetery. Josiah Thomas is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Josiah Thomas, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his final moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's closing ceremony. We thank you very much for visiting the memorial today and wish you a safe trip home. Good evening.